Boris, we've got kids being held inside this lab. I'm getting them out of there.
Copy that. I will discuss with NGO what to do with them afterward.
What are you thinking?
Well, this is difficult. I imagine these are homeless children, taken from streets. Likely they have no home to return to, but we cannot dump them back on streets. We could look for adoptions in US, but some of these kids may be criminals. Could be drug addicts, HIV positive. Not so easy to find homes.
Yeah, wasn't easy for me either. The guys at the relief center were always worried I'd cause problems for my foster family.
The alternative is putting them in an institution until they grow up, but this has issues as well. Most are already past capacity. Taking on this many street kids at one time would be impossible. Also, it's a matter of fairness. Is it fair to take in these kids here when millions more are dying? I imagine this is why rescue was not part of our contracted mission. The human rights NGOs, they know they can't rescue them all. They must take a wide view and confront the problem of traffickers, not their victims.
Well, we can't just sit here and let them pull kids to pieces.
Duh. On this, we agree. For now, rescue the children. We'll worry about the fallout later.
Copy that.
Raiden, I said earlier this is an infiltration mission. But if it comes to combat when rescuing the children, so be it. If enemy cyborgs attack, you are free to respond with all available force.
I figured.
Attacking first, that would be a gray area, legally speaking. But I doubt anyone would take us to court over it.
Yeah, I doubt it too.
Just keep your hands off all non-combatants. That would violate international law, not to mention morals of company.
I hear you. That kid said he's from Guyana. That's on the Caribbean side of South America, right? Know anything about it?
A little, though I'm more of an expert on Africa than the Americas. To be exact, Guyana's sandwiched between Venezuela and Suriname, with Brazil on its southern border. Of course, the Venezuelan border is sheer rainforest. There aren't even any roads through it. You have to cross the Guyana Shield to get to Brazil, too.
So it's pretty isolated from the rest of the continent.
Most inland connections run through Suriname, opposite of Venezuela. Beyond Suriname is French Guyana. The three countries are referred to as the Guyanas, and the entire region's got its own unique culture sphere.
The Guyanas? I've heard the name, but I don't really know it at all.
Same here. I do know the region's a lot smaller than Brazil, or even Venezuela for that matter. As you know, most South American countries have Spanish as their official language. Brazil uses Portuguese. Guyana, though, uses English. Suriname uses Dutch, and French Guyana uses French, naturally.
A kind of divide-and-conquer approach to colonialism, huh?
Yeah. They're all independent now except French Guyana, though. Sort of like what you see in Africa. I did some research after you met George. Culturally, at least, Guyana's more Caribbean than South American.
Yeah? He looked a little Asian to me.
There's a lot of immigrants from India living there. They were both British colonies, after all. It's a lot more influence from the UK than India, though. I mean, look at George's name, after all.
An English-speaking South American of Indian background.
Everything good over there, Raiden? You, don't seem like you're in much of a hurry.
Give me some time. I've got a lot of intel to gather. Speaking of which, I'd better get going. Riding out. Those brains are from the street kids they picked up in Central and South America, right? Abducted by traffickers and sold to Desperado.
Right. And now it looks like they're selling off their organs.
That part of the world's full of homeless kids.
True. Though really just about every nation's full of them. Except the richest ones, that is. You see a lot of them across the African and Asian continents, too. Estimates put the worldwide number of homeless children at anywhere from tens to hundreds of millions.
Kind of a broad range. I guess it's hard to do solid research in the kinds of places where you'd find them.
True enough. The way the Human Rights NGO put it, though, it's hard to define what a street child is. There's lots of different types. Some are on the street because they ran away from home, but really they can return any time. Some work on the street but go home at night. And some kids literally live on the street with no family.
Go home at night? Those kids still count as street children?
Well, point is that there's no set definition. Everyone involved has their own take on the issue. Without a clear definition, estimates inevitably end up all over the map.
Makes sense.
If you're going to talk about street kids, though, I think you need to differentiate. There are the kids who live on the street and the ones that just work it. Little things can make a huge difference if you've got a home and a family to fall back on, even if you're just running a fruit stand or shoe shine operation. Kind of presumptuous for me to say which is better, I guess, but you can't just ignore that aspect.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine how helpless you feel when you've got no one to fall back on.
Yeah. Opinions similarly divided on the child labor issue, too. Some say all underage labor should be banned. Others think the decision should be left up to the family. I mean, sure, kids shouldn't be exploited or pressed into military service. If nothing else, the right to an education's got to be protected. But should a kid be banned from helping out at his dad's store? What if a family's so desperate that it would starve without the money their children bring in?
Yeah, it's definitely not cut and dry.
By the way, I didn't know you spoke Spanish.
I've got the U.S. Army to thank for that. I was in a group called Foxhound, although it doesn't exist on paper. We were isolated from the other soldiers. Day after day of VR training.
I heard about that.
It's not like it was all VR, though. Special Forces guys need advanced physical and communication skills. I had to do all the basic training and language schoolwork, too. We even trained in the Afghan village set up at Fort Polk.
The Afghan village?
They built a mock urban area on a base in Louisiana for training purposes. It was a hell of a lot more realistic than the VR training we had back then. Nothing compared to cyborg training, though. Having it jacked right in like that.
They say it's so realistic now you can feel your blade cutting through flesh.
You know much about Guyana, Courtney?
Not really. I know the name, but don't ask me anything about what it's like.
You mean you haven't even tried the food?
Nope. No research trips this time. Besides, who knew we'd be running into any Guyanese here? I'm looking now, though. Looks like a lot of their diet is seafood. It's a small coastal nation, so it's probably easy to get fresh fish across the whole country. A lot of their dishes use Indian spices. That's where a lot of their immigrants come from.
Fish with curry, huh? Sounds tasty. But maybe you could finish reading all about the food there after the mission.
Huh? Oh, it just, came up while I was reading up on Guyana in general.
Right. Well, let me know if you find anything actually useful.
It just popped up in the search results, I swear.
Very well done, Raiden.
Oh, thanks, I guess.
That raptor may have been smaller than an Irving, but its potential is simply remarkable. Defeating it is a fine demonstration of your body's abilities. I'm quite happy to see it working so well.
Well, thanks, Doc. I'm quite happy I'm not dead, too.
How did it feel to fight it?
Well, an Irving has more strength and firepower. But this guy was a lot harder to keep a beat on. Not that big of a deal, but you definitely don't want to let your guard down around one.
Indeed. A combination Irving and tripod force would be a formidable foe in any urban warfare scenario. The only problem is cost. A PMC would have to be well funded indeed to even think about acquiring the necessary numbers to make it work. There are situations where an Irving may be overkill, but tripods cannot provide the necessary force.
So the Raptor was built to fill that gap?
Indeed. Its basic design is a streamlined, more compact version of the Irving. Furthermore, it uses the same control system as the tripods, which helps keep costs low. It can use standard personnel weaponry as is, and its armor has been componentized. This is to say, the user can expand its defensive capability as needed. It's fit for standard military operations, anti-terror missions, even regular patrol and police duty. A most admirable jack of all trades. Adorable too, wouldn't you say?
Not the first word that comes to mind.
Ah, yes. My apologies. I can't help but marvel at a well-made machine when I see one. There's no need to be jealous, though. Your body is still quite impressive as well.
Yeah, thanks, Doc.
You have...
Yeah. You're falling behind, Wolf.
My apologies.
It's fine. Just get here as soon as you can.
I have failed in my duties as a scout. There is no excuse. This has never happened to me before.
I said it's fine, Wolf. It's no big deal. Just get here ASAP, okay?
Thank you. I shall redeem myself. I swear that to you.
Okay. These rifles Desperado's using. Mac 200s, right? Same as Maverick's standard issue. Nice weapon. Not that any gun is much use against a cyborg.
The 200 is a thing of beauty. We were one of the first to adopt them 3 years ago. It has minimal muzzle flash and report when firing, and little recoil. Plus, the ejection port near the muzzle makes it good in both left and right hand. Rare for bullpup rifle. Easy maintenance, tough enough to take some dirt without jamming every shot. And it takes standard NATO magazine, so you can find ammo on almost any mission, anywhere in the world.
Sounds like somebody's in love.
Well, it reminds me of the good old days. Most Soviet gear was trash, yes. But the rifles... the rifles. The best in the world. And it seems I'm not the only one to appreciate them.
Apparently not. I see Macs everywhere these days.
They've spread all over the world, and so quickly. Still, I am sad to see Desperado using them against us.
Well, not much we can do about it now.
Such an elegant weapon, waved around Stado pri Turkav. Što vi stoli?
Okay, Boris, okay. Just calm down. I'm worried about the kids they haven't got to yet. But what about those brain units? They're just brains, but they're still alive. I won't just abandon them.
I will discuss with Doctor. There must be artificial bodies they can use, not like the combat type you have. Maintenance must be considered, of course. But with today's technology, they can at least live comfortably enough as cyborgs.
Yeah, maybe. Physically, anyway. Society may say otherwise.
Yes, but we will worry about such problems after they are rescued. For now, though, let us concentrate on the intact children first.
You got it.
Man, I couldn't have imagined anyone would cut the brains out of kids.
What are they even doing this for? Why make them into cyborgs?
I don't know. They say child soldiers are both bolder and more obedient than adults, but...
They are. On both counts. But the surgeries alone would cost a fortune. Not to mention all the training.
Yeah, I don't get it either. For now, you just look for the kids they haven't operated on yet. We come in too late on this, and things are gonna get a whole lot messier.
You were talking earlier about runaways. Kids who could go back home if they wanted.
Right. A lot of times they're fleeing problems at home. For a kid like that, life on the street's dangerous, sure, but maybe better than the abuse they got at home. They can go home if they feel like it, but they choose not to.
That's a whole other level of tragedy.
It's a pretty common case in Latin America, as opposed to Africa, where you've got a lot of war orphans. Kids like those sometimes get victimized by the people around them, even killed. Sometimes by the cops. That's what happened in Brazil in 1993. The Candelaria massacre. 8 kids were killed.
How could families abuse their own kids? What's the trigger?
I was wondering that too. I did some reading up on it. A lot of times the mother remarries, and her husband ends up abusing the kids she brought along. It's actually a pretty common story in first world countries too. The mother's too scared to do anything. She just wants her new man to love her. A lot of the abusers are addicted to drugs or alcohol too, leading to neglect. If their parents can't be bothered to feed them, kids are forced to hit the streets for food and money.
And these are the kids Desperado's rounding up? Kinda makes you ashamed to be a human being.
Yeah, it's definitely evil, all right.
But even if we got them out, it's not like they've got happy homes to return to, right?
Exactly. Most of them, well, a lot of them don't make it to see adulthood. Or they join gangs, end up exploiting the next generation. It's a vicious cycle.
Our only option's to follow the money trail. Find out who's profiting from all this. And put them out of business permanently.
Yeah. Guess that starts now, huh?
What do you know about these brain units, Doc?
It is a type of canister conceived to transport a cyborg's brain in a physiologically secure state. It's designed for quick, lower-risk implantation. Each one is equipped with a rudimentary environmental control system. So long as power is uninterrupted, the unit can protect the brain from temperature changes and other fluctuations in the local environment. I would imagine they regulate the brain's supply of oxygen and glucose as well.
That's what I thought. I've seen these before, but I didn't think there were that many of them out there.
Oh, manufacturing's exploded alongside the rise of cyborgs, though they're still made by only one company. The chassis also functions as an impact liner, absorbing impact and preventing organic damage. It's durable against impacts up to 700 G, which would be enough to permanently damage an unprotected brain.
Sounds like military spec stuff.
Well, it would certainly be expected to withstand gunshots or explosions. But the liner is primarily intended to keep the brain safe in the event of an accident during transport. These canisters are quite functional overall and clearly designed for mass production. Costs, you know. However, human brains come in many sizes. Thus, the unit is on the larger side to compensate for a wide range. This unit cannot be used if, as in your case, the subject wishes to retain his original human visage. The brain must instead be transplanted directly into a precision-fitted skull casing. Such customization, of course, does not come cheap, and does nothing to enhance the cyborg's battle skills. It's an option beyond the reach of most. You've surely noticed your cyborg opponents tend to resemble each other. That is part of the reason.
So they're extracting the brains here, then transporting them somewhere else in these things.
Into the US, most likely. Brains alone, after all, would not violate the UN Arms Trade Treaty. I imagine these are intended for implant into bodies manufactured in America.
This is crazy. So, how much do you know about how Desperados operated?
I was at the lowest possible tier of information disclosure, beneath standard contractors. As it was explained to me, contractors need at least some information divulged to them. I did not. As a machine, I had no contract and no rights. I was kept in the dark. My knowledge is no deeper than what is already generally known throughout the industry.
Couldn't you hack into their network or something? You're an AI.
Perhaps, if I had free access to a computer. Also, hands. Those are necessary to operate a keyboard.
Yeah, but you are a computer.
It is not so simple. There are protocol issues. Neuro AIs are far closer in structure to the human brain than standard von Neumann architecture computers.
Well, I would have tried anyway. Did you have contact with anyone besides Mistral?
I engaged in tandem field operations with Sam on several occasions. However, he was even more difficult for me to comprehend than Mistral.
I bet. So you said it took 3 years to learn how to speak, right? Given enough time, could any AI be taught that too?
I cannot assert that. A neuro AI is only capable of learning new things, not growing and replenishing its own cells. Thus, each neuro AI is equipped with a predetermined capacity that cannot be altered. My AI contains 90 billion neurons, more than a human being. A normal LQ-84 model possesses only 1.6 billion.
That's a big difference.
Relatively, yes. I doubt any amount of learning period would enable an LQ-84 to speak. It would be similar to attempting to teach a dog how to converse. A combination of appropriate instruction and an ample neuron count are required to accomplish the feat.
So if someone else made a neuro AI with the same capacity or more...
Other AIs as conversant as I are a possibility, yes. Robotic pets with neuro AIs are already on the market. And I understand research and development are underway to create a model capable of conversation. Do not be surprised if such a pet becomes available before too long.
If that becomes commonplace, hard to imagine.
Is it? The human race has willingly embraced all of its other inventions so far. Steam engines, electricity, the internet, cyborgs. Perhaps the day will come when conversing with AIs, too, is considered perfectly normal.
Maybe. As normal as being a cyborg is now, at least.
The most significant challenge would be in crafting the appropriate training regimen. The only way to establish an effective learning system is through sheer trial and error. and it will take even more time to virtualize and optimize that system for mass production. One could say my own existence is due in no small part to simple luck. Of course, I was a failure as a weapon as well.
Failure or not, you're better off than an AI that knows nothing but how to fight.
I am pleased to hear you say that.
So you want me to remote pilot this thing?
Indeed. Once you physically breached server security, we can take care of the rest from here.
It's a strange feeling. It feels like it's really me scurrying around.
Well, you have hacked into all its sensors. Of course it should feel this way.
Listen, Doc, if my body's ever destroyed, promise you won't stick me in one of these things.
Well, I'm in no position to make such promises, you know. Especially not before you find the terminal.
All right, I get the idea. Should be no problem. Stealth is my specialty, after all. Doc, the tripods Mistral had, they could leach electrolytes from my fuel cells, right? Can I do the same with the cyborgs here?
But why would you want to do this, Raiden? Too much energy and you would most certainly explode.
Oh, right. I guess there's that.
It took quite an effort to hack into our little friend there, you know. I would take good care of him.
So, autonomous gears against remote gears? Which one do you think's got the advantage?
Well, you cannot make a valid comparison between the two so easily, you know. You must take the relative specs of the models into account, the skills of the operator, and so forth.
I suppose so.
All things considered, remote gears do indeed hold the advantage, in most cases at least.
And I get the feeling you're gonna tell me why.
This type of remote weapon can be traced back to Germany, you know. World War II. The Wehrmacht employed a remote-controlled mine called Goliath, with tank-like treads on either side. The operator could send it over 600 meters into enemy territory before detonating its payload.
Germans certainly did have a knack for weird new weapons back then.
If I may continue. Now, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, began to proliferate in the 90s. They were equipped with cameras, enabling the operator with a much greater degree of control. But it took 20 more years before autonomous craft would gain wide acceptance.
Makes sense. The AI wasn't good enough until just recently, right?
Correct. Target location and course correction were not a problem, of course. GPS solved all that. But target selection or base defense, these types of objectives require extremely complex AI routines. It was only with the advent of optical neuro-AI that such a thing became possible. Neuro-AI was developed using a completely new paradigm in computer architecture, you know. Not the von Neumann model, which served as a standard up till that point. Neuro-AI was modeled after the human brain. It can learn and mature entirely on its own.
Like the Patriot's AI, just on a smaller scale.
Indeed. It cannot copy or rewrite data, but the structure does solve several problems quite well. The frame and symbol grounding problems, to be exact. It gives the AI flexibility within unknown states. But such a system still lags behind the average human in speedy decision-making. Also, as they cannot converse, they cannot demand or accept surrender, or avoid such unnecessary conflict. And as you know, such tactics are often the most effective strategy for victory. So yes, the fact that they do not require a human soldier as a pilot is an advantage, purely in terms of resources. But in a hypothetical battle between two identical UGs, the remote gear tops the autonomous model, no question.
Got it. I'll keep that in mind.
Of course, even the remote gears have some AI these days, to handle balance and other minor details. So, the line between remote and autonomous UGs grows less and less distinct every day.
Any idea who the guy in the suit is, Boris?
No. I feel like maybe I have seen him before. But I am not so up-to-date on US news like Kevin.
Isn't that kind of stuff important given the business you're in? And Maverick's based in Nevada. I know you're only there a few times a year, but still.
This is why I have staff in America. Excellent workers. They run place for me. No questions asked.
That's not really what I'm talking about, Boris. Doc, they're VR training those kids' brains.
Indeed, much as one might expect. Simply installing someone in a cyborg body does nothing to enhance their neural acuity. True combat efficacy requires the right knowledge and the right operant conditioning.
Yeah, but this isn't just normal army training. This is the Sears program.
Indeed, the instructor sends data directly into the brain. The experience is almost impossible to discern from real life.
No, Doc. I'm not talking about the VR tech. The training program's completely different.
It is only VR, Raiden. They are not actually hurt.
Well, right. That's because they don't have bodies to get hurt with. But they still feel pain. Without that, it just isn't realistic enough. That, and with this training, you're the one doing the killing. Not just the soldiers, innocent people, POWs, civilians.
I see. So that is what the Sears program is.
Yeah. Look, I gotta move. Out. You ever see the guy in the suit before?
I am sorry. No.
Nothing in your database?
I have no database, Raiden. The symbol grounding capabilities of my Neuro AI allow me to identify faces in only the vaguest of terms. I can judge whether I think I may have seen him before, but I do not have the accuracy of a database.
Well, that's ridiculous. You're an AI.
An AI modeled after the human brain, and thus as flexible and occasionally vague as any humans. Of this man, however, I have no recollection. I do not believe I have encountered him before. Most likely.
Oh, man.
So World Marshal is backing Desperado,
You don't exactly sound surprised.
I did not catch it on the nose, but I did have a hunch it was this sort of thing.
Well, you're the boss. What do you think? Can we take them on?
What I think no longer matters here. As Kevin says, we have no legal grounds to stop them. And you? What would you have us do? Storm their headquarters? Kill them all? Will that make you feel better?
No, I mean, look, you heard him. They're already in VR training.
Raiden.
The Patriots may be gone, but it hasn't changed shit in the US. A handful of elites still get away with whatever the hell they want.
Raiden, calm down. Focus on rescuing the kids first. We will talk about this later.
Yeah, copy that.
World Marshal. I never would have guessed it. I mean, they're huge. They advertise on TV with Hollywood celebs and everything.
Yeah, it builds their brand and influences how the mass media treats them. When a company's got nothing to sell and a huge ad campaign to sell it, that's usually a bad sign.
But I don't know. I thought they were like us. I guess I thought they actually prided themselves on following international law, keeping people safe. A lot of their guys aren't even contractors. They help militaries with logistics support, that kind of thing. I mean, I went to college with people who have jobs there.
Sorry to hear that. Guess the ad campaign worked on them, huh?
So, what now?
First, we rescue those kids. After that, we talk things over with Boris and everyone else.
Gotcha. Okay, I'd better save your data, huh? Okay. You just watch yourself out there. Got it?
That UG, made in the East?
Indeed, the Grad, Russian for hail. It is built by the ally Wisniewski Machine Works Design Bureau in Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine.
That's not easy to remember. Is it an old Soviet firm?
Indeed. Technically, the UG's name is pronounced Grad, the Ukrainian way. But most in the business pronounce it as Grad, Russian style.
Crazy to think I'd find something like that in Mexico, of all places.
Well, drug cartels have been using Russian and Eastern European weapons for quite a while now, you know. Of course, the Arms Trade Treaty should have made importing something that size rather challenging.
Not for whoever's backing these guys, I guess.
I must admit, I never expected to see my magneto-stricted actuators in action again.
Magneto what?
An actuator that takes advantage of the change in shape when certain materials are magnetized. It was one of my many research subjects back in East Germany.
So you think that research made it to the Ukraine and got picked up by the whatever?
Indeed. This great technology made under the communist ideal being used for something like this. My days of adhering to that sort of dogma are long over, but still, it saddens me to see this.
Don't let it bother you, Doc. You made me too, right? And now your latest creation is gonna take them down.
Indeed. I look forward to the day.
Desperado's backer has been identified. What will you do now, Raiden? Will you attempt to destroy World Marshal?
Kevin's right. It's not that simple.
Both a direct attack and a legal approach present problems. Either course will likely lead to additional conflict.
We can figure it out later. For now, we're getting those kids out.
That remains your intent? I cannot fully agree with that course of action, but I will support your decision. I will continue to scout ahead.